In today's video, we're covering a core foundation of your golf swing, how to set up to the golf ball. This will be for both irons and your driver, and it is pivotal that you actually get this correct. This is what leads to you being able to consistently hit good shots round after round after round. If you have a solid setup that's the same every time, this is what is going to improve your consistency. So we're going to cover a few key elements within the setup. We're going to cover ball position, stance width, distance from the ball, how far you should stand, and then we're also going to cover how our body should be positioned. So how much do we have to bend? Where do we have to tilt? These are all key things, and there is nuanced differences between an iron and a driver that you need to understand. All right, so we're going to start with an iron. Now, I'm not covering grip, so grip the club however you like, and when you grip the club is up to you. Some people prefer to grip the club first and then set up to the ball. Others prefer to put the club on the ground, set up, and then take your grip. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Do what is ever most comfortable for you or allows you to be most consistent. If you find that you need to grip the club first so that you're doing it the same way every single time, which is a very good way to do it, it's what the world number one Scotty Scheffler does, which is one of the elements that allows him to be so good and so consistent day after day. Get your grip in whatever fashion you want, and then we're going to set up to the ball. To get the same ball position every single time, I like to set up using my trail foot as a guide. Now, I step in with 1 foot, but you can also stand together with 2 feet to make it simple. Put the ball in the middle of your feet, and we'll help visualize this with an alignment stick. So the alignment stick's in the middle of my feet, and this is how you could also practice to ensure that you're getting a consistent setup. The alignment stick is positioned at the ball. For our shorter and mid irons, we want the ball to stay in the middle of our stance. As we get longer, you do want to move it slightly more forward to help maintain the optimal launch conditions. For this demonstration, I've got a 7 iron. So we're going to set up like it's in the middle of our stance. So put the club behind the ball. And now that we know the ball is in the middle, we want to take equal steps away from the alignment stick. For an iron, try to make your feet width just wider than your hips. This allows us to have a super solid base. And as we turn throughout our swing, we are not going to fall outside of our hips. If our stance is too narrow, then we are not stable and we can move too far outside. If our stance is too wide, this can inhibit us on being able to move. So try to get it just outside of hip width. From here, you can now get into a semi-squat position and feel the ground and feel nice and balanced and athletic. That is how we get a consistent stance width. Now, how far should we stand from the ball? This varies person to person, but if you are standing too far away or you're standing too close, this can cause issues for your swing. So the main thing is just to be comfortable with where the ball is in relation to how far away it is from you. But to get an indication of where it roughly should be, take your stance and your grip and then stand up and have the club in front of you. Close your eyes now. Feel nice and relaxed. Feel nice and balanced. And then I want you to bend back over into a golf posture and drop the club onto the ground. So I still have my eyes closed doing this. When you open them, this is a good indication of where is actually a natural, comfortable position for your body. So you'll see that the ball is now positioned more towards the hosel of the club. So when I initially set up to this, I was a little bit too close, potentially, for what would be comfortable. So now if I readjust to put the ball back in the center of the face, this is a good indication of a comfortable spot of how far I should stand from the ball. Now, golf is a dynamic sport, so don't get super focused and locked in on being millimeter perfect, the same distance from the ball every time. Just get in that comfortable range and make sure you're not too far away reaching for it and that you're not too jammed up. Find a comfortable spot and roughly be in that position every time. All right, and now we're going to talk our actual posture. People often need to know how much do they have to bend their knees? Do we have to push our pelvis back? Do we have to keep a straight back? We want you to be athletic. And the way that you can be athletic is by not putting yourself in a stiff posture. So how I want you to feel in terms of knee depth, if you were to do a little jump and land, you would land with semi-bent knees and in a nice balanced position. This should be about how you set up knee bend wise. So we don't want you sitting right down and we don't want you stiff-legged. Do that as a little bit of a test and just feel a little bit of bend in your knees so that you can feel nice and balanced and dug into the ground. Where you will feel balance on your foot is we don't want you too far towards your toes and we don't want you too far towards your heels because you will lose balance in your swing. Where I want you to feel the pressure on your feet is around the balls to mid-foot. Where this will line up, if you video yourself, we want the back of our arm, so where our armpit is, as the line of where we judge our weight. So it should line up roughly around balls to the mid-foot area. This allows most people to feel nice and balanced. If you are too much on your toes, when you then make your swing, your weight will be too far forward and a lot of the times will cause you to early extend to not fall over as you try to hit the ball. And vice versa, if you're too far back, as you then swing to stop you from falling backwards, you will likely fall forwards onto your toes. These are not moves that we want. Get nice and balanced in the middle of your foot and get that little bit of a knee bend to feel nice and comfortable there. Now, from there, what do we do with our upper body? Do we have to push our pelvis back? What do we have to do with our back? I am not an advocate for pushing our hips all the way back. If you feel your pressure and your weight in the more mid-foot and you get into that little semi-squat position, your butt and your pelvis will have moved back a little bit. This is a natural position of where I want you to be. I don't want you to try and force those hips back. Do that test again. Wherever you land here, your knees bend, your pelvis moves back slightly. This is where you land. This is where I want you to feel like you are. All right? And then it's the same thing for our upper back. You don't want to feel like you're keeping really stiff and keeping your spine in extension. If we were to do that little jump and land here, and if we were holding a golf club, to now get the golf club to the ground, you just want to feel like you are rounding your upper back to put the club onto the ground. All right, we're not keeping it in forced extension. It may look like it's quite straight, but the feeling will be just to round at the upper back to drop the club onto the ground. So now the result of what you will have is a good stance width, nice and balanced in the mid to balls of our feet, hips in a nice balanced position, and our back rounded slightly in a nice comfortable way to put the club onto the ground. This is a nice, comfortable, athletic, balanced position for us to now start our swing. So now how does that differ when we move on to the driver? With the irons, we had that the ball position was more in the middle of our stance. With a driver, it is at the front of our stance because we are trying to sweep the ball off the tee and hit it up into the air. So we're going to do the same thing using the alignment stick of having the ball in the middle of our feet. But what we're going to do this time is we are not going to move our lead foot. We're going to turn it out slightly just to get a little bit of flair to help us with our rotation. But now the only thing we're going to do is pick up this trail leg and move it backwards. Now, the way we do this will help you feel the optimal tilts that we're going to have for the rest of our setup. So don't just move your foot and keep yourself straight up. Pick your foot up and stand backwards. What you will notice that as you land here, you will feel a bit more force and a bit more pressure go into this trail leg. This is where we're going to set up for the driver. When we have our driver, we don't want to be in the middle. We want to feel like we are actually loaded back a little bit onto our trail side. Because then, by the time we start our swing, we can get our pressure and weight off the ball to then allow us to come back in and explode through. So we haven't moved our lead leg. All we've done is picked up this trail leg and stand backwards. Now, width-wise, where you want this to land will be a bit wider than where you had an iron. Don't be too wide, but don't be too narrow. So this is about where we had the iron. It's going to be an extra little bit of a step out. This is just to help us be able to get a bit more behind the ball, have a bit more solid of a base for the more speed and power that we're going to have with our driver swing. All right, so get that move, get set up, pick up our trail foot, and plant off the ball. Now, what this has changed is we now have a bit more flexion in our trail leg. Our weight is a bit more starting on our trail side, and we are now tilted behind the ball. We're not still straight up because we have done this and landed into our lead side. This has put us with the correct spine tilt to now hit our driver off the tee. All right, so this has changed on a bit more of the technical note. Where the tilt is coming from is not just because we have tilted our shoulders like this. When we do the step and the plant, because this leg goes into flexion, it puts our lead hip higher than our trail hip, which also then helps create that spine tilt of our upper body behind the ball. So the tilt is coming from your lead hip being higher than your trail hip. helping to create the overall tilt. All right, so that's the only feeling of how you want to do that setup. Have your feet together, pick up your trail side, and plant it off. This is going to help you get into that natural tilt. You don't have to think about how much to tilt. It's going to help you naturally get there. Now, from here, the weight distribution of our feet, the distance that we've set up to the ball, and our posture is all still the same as what we described as with an iron. The only difference in the amount of rounding that we have in our spine is because the driver is longer. You're not going to be bent over as far. You're going to be bent over a little bit less. You're going to feel like you're standing a little bit taller. That's completely natural. The club is longer. We're standing further away. You're going to be standing further upright. Stance width, pressure distribution, and spine angle is what differs between the irons and the driver. Now we still have the ball off our front foot. We're not bringing the club all the way back here. We are keeping our hands where they were, creating a nice straight line from the club up through our lead arm. And this now sets us up for success to bomb our driver down the middle of the fairway as far as you can. So this is how we set up for our irons and our driver. Build it as a checklist into your pre-shot routine, right? So grip, do your grip in whatever order you choose, whether you grip first or after, all right? But set up to the ball, feel comfortable in the distance you are from the ball, have your feet together or line up with one, but do the alignment, have the ball in the middle of your feet. So we're using a driver, so I'm going to just flare that foot out a bit, drop my foot back to help get me on the correct angles and loaded back. And now we're ready to go. I don't have to think about the setup because it is inbuilt into our pre-shot routine about what we do when we come up to the ball. And this is what allows us to be consistent day after day, shot after shot. Right, I really hope that this helps you be able to build a more consistent setup for yourself and that clears up the differences between an iron and a driver. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.